Hello, everyone. It's Matt or Chewy again. It's Nick the Goblin again, and it's Charles Mini-Val again. After completing the original 4 Batman movies, we have finally moved up to the Chris Nolan ones. By that I mean we did Batman Begins tonight, and here we are to talk about it. You know, it rocks. It rocked when I first saw it 9 years ago, and it still rocks today. Because, let's see, it goes back to the darker roots, very much like the comics. Though not gothic dark like Tim Burton's vision, it's more of a realistic style of dark. Or just a realistic vibe, period. Not even it being dark. It's just everything's believable. You know, Batman is more flawed. You know, you see him stumbling because he's new to the whole shebang. When the bat signals in the clouds, it's imperfect looking. It looks like how it would look like if you projected such a light to the cloud. And the more legal aspects, seeing like more of the legal proceedings point of view on the crime in Gotham City. You know, Gotham looking like a regular city. Chicago, in this case, it was filmed in Chicago.
Pretty much. Very realistic. Step fashion, I mean, like, exactly what he said, like, Gotham City, looks like a real, like, big city in America or something, say, like, Chicago, or even, like, mostly Chicago, it looks like. It actually kind of looks like Blade Runner a little bit in some areas. I thought that was pretty cool. And another thing the monorails, and another thing, like the whole little like Chinatown with like when it's raining and everything, and that kind of reminded me of Blade Runner too. And another thing I wanted to point out was how realistic Arkham Island is. Like, it really looks like just a mental institution. It doesn't look like this dark, creepy, like, gothic place in the comic books or the cartoon or anything. Like, it really looked like a place, like, locally. Like, you'll see, somebody going there for, like, drug rehabilitation or something. But other than the realistic aspects of this movie, like, this movie, like, really is good and really does, like, get to the point of Bruce Wayne becoming Batman. And I really actually like the first half better than the second half of this movie, even though I like the whole movie. I really loved the supporting players by Morgan Freeman and Michael Caine as Alfred. Alfred really expands in this movie. He's played really good by Michael Caine. I mean, Morgan Freeman that plays Lucius Fox, and he's actually kind of funny in this. I like him. He's not like over the top funny or laugh out loud funny, but I like his personality in here, and like I said, I like these characters overall.
Let's not forget.
My favorite portrayal of it. Gary Oldman is Commissioner Gordon in this. There was no other better casting wise. Gary Oldman was just spot on as Commissioner Gordon.
I mean, what's different about this movie than both its 2 sequels and the previous 4 is that it is an origin story. So, of course, Batman does not show up on screen until probably halfway through the movie.
Only about 50 minutes into the movie,
yeah.
I had to estimate.
But, and one thing very different about this than both the original 4 movies and the 2 sequels is that the villains take more of a back seat. There's not this whole over promotion of the villains, of Scarecrow, of Ra's al Ghul. In the trailers you see them briefly.
And Cillian Murphy or Liam Neeson didn't get top billing and everything,
right.
That's irrelevant. But
they're like nowhere near the top. They're more like they're part of the main cast. Let's see. No, it didn't show it on here.
It showed it on the sequels.
Actually, the only one that gets pre-title billing is Christian Bale. But in terms of main cast after the title, it's Michael Caine, Liam Neeson, so he's third. Katie Holmes, Gary Oldman, Cillian Murphy, Tom Wilkinson, Rutger Hauer, Ken Watanabe, and Morgan Freeman. You know, about Ken Watanabe. When the movie came out originally, the promotions had you believe he was Ra's al Ghul, and he hardly appeared in the trailer. And that you were going to believe that the character of Henry Dugard, played by Liam Neeson, was Henry Dugard, you know, the trainer of Batman. But Ken Watanabe, his part, and he's a great actor, so small, almost shameful. But
yeah, sometimes you'll forget he's like even in as small as he.
Yeah. And, you know, I mean, he works with Chris Nolan again later on in Inception, a much bigger part. I'm actually surprised Rutger Hauer was part of the main cast, too. I mean, he's got a few scenes, and it's pretty interesting scenes as a snobby CEO of Wayne Enterprises, but,
was he mentioned in the sequels? I don't remember.
No. No, there's so much that goes on in these Chris Nolan movies that some things just decide to get forgotten about, and it's better left that way.
True.
Well, in the case of the
besides Batman, I mean, Batman's like this
the
character here. Unlike the other ones where Batman really was kind of just pushed to the side. This is Batman's movie here. That's why this movie, like I said, the whole build-up was great. I really loved the whole build-up in this movie. I do like, even though it wasn't really a criticism, even though it is realistic, like, it works for this type of movie. I mean, it's more like, it really is more of a, we're gonna look more at the substance of this movie instead of the style, kind of like how the previous ones were. It's like, most of it really was more style over substance. But, even though I'm personally not the biggest fan of the style, like, you know how I mentioned like Arkham Island and everything, like it works for this movie, and I paid more attention to like what the movie was actually about than the actual style of it. And this movie is not bad. No, I mean nowhere near bad. It really is true to the character of Bruce Wayne and Batman. Probably we're gonna get to the sequels later. I think this is, as far as paying attention to or treating Batman Bruce Wayne like the main character, this one definitely gets it right.
Yeah, and about the style, one thing what makes Christopher Nolan one of the greatest filmmakers, not just of today but ever, and this goes for the sequels, and this goes for all other big budget movies Christopher Nolan makes, whether it be Inception, the upcoming Interstellar. He relies as much as he possibly can on practical effects, location shots, sound stages, very little CGI. The chase scenes with the tumbler. You know, they call a vehicle in the movie the tumbler because, again, in a realistic sense, no one's going to call their vehicle the Batmobile. But it serves as the Batmobile, but it's called the tumbler. And it's very militaristic. But the chase scenes involving that were all
it made sense.
Shot practical on streets in San Francisco with careful editing to make it look so realistic. I meant Chicago, excuse me.
I didn't mean to correct you.
No, I'm glad you did, thank you. Because I'd much rather you correct me here than some comment on YouTube saying, hey, it's Chicago, not San Francisco. That was from the first Tim Burton. What was his name that I impersonated so well? Edgar.
Something like that.
So, moving on, that's the thing about Chris Nolan movies, that he relies on practical effects. He'll get it in the shot. Yes, there's still CGI here and there, but his big thing is in the camera, on set. You know,
the bats were definitely CGI.
Yeah, and they had to be.
They looked great.
And they looked great. They had to be. You know, Christian Bale was phenomenal in the sense that he really differentiated Bruce Wayne from Batman, and you would never even think they're the same person. He really, and part of that, and a lot of people would give a shit for this, was the voice. And, well, in this movie, it's not as bad in the sequels. But
I was about to mention that, I did not really notice it that much in this movie. I'm sure, I remember a little bit. It's been a while since I've seen these, but I remember the sequels, and everybody's complaining about that, and I remember it being more noticeable in the sequel. But I think I don't think he's bad at all in this, and I think nothing about his performance here bothered me at all.
No. And that voice of his. So, alright. So we're kind of talking about performances. There's not a single bad performance in this movie. Obviously the least of, and this is going to sound biased, but the least of the characters I care for was Rachel Dawes. Believe it or not, Katie Holmes, was not as bad as people made her out to be. But in the second one, I do think Maggie Gyllenhaal was better, and I wish they had casted her in the first one. But, that was,
I thought she was just okay. Like, she wasn't bad. Like I said, I wasn't aggravated by her or anything, but, like, she wasn't that believable, and she was okay. I mean, she just kind of certain. She played it, I guess, the way it should have been played, like, really no more.
The best of her ability.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Exactly. I wanted to mention something with her character. Like, I noticed something similar, and I'm gonna get shit for this probably because I am kind of comparing this to the original Tim Burton one. In a way, not really, but I noticed that in the scene in the first one, Batman had to save Vicky Vale, and in this one, like, he has to save Rachel Dawes. But in this one, that setup works better. I mean, he really is trying to save Rachel Dawes from getting killed in this movie. In the first one, she was just trying to save her from the Joker, which we mentioned in our review. Why the hell is the Joker obsessed with her? We don't get that. I mean, she was actually trying to get murdered in this one.
See, we understand why Scarecrow had a problem with Rachel Dawes, because Rachel Dawes is
that's what I mean.
She's an attorney, and she's investigating what the hell's going on, and Scarecrow catches her. Cillian Murphy, phenomenal actor. I wouldn't call him a scene stealer.
Definitely not, but he's good.
But he pretty much played how a young psychotic psychiatrist would play. You couldn't really do better than that. And I have to mention this. The little blonde-head kid that Batman hands a gadget to that Rachel Dawes helps saves at the end of the movie. I forgot the actor's name, and I even forgot the character's name in the show I'm about to mention, but he's grown up a little bit, and he's a main cast member in Game of Thrones, which I think is pretty cool. I love how they stuck more true to the source material. This kind of primarily followed the particular comic book series known as Batman Year One, which was origin stories. Instead of Joker being the one that killed his parents, it was Joe Chill, just like in the comics.
Truly was Joe Chill.
Yeah, they actually got it right. It's not hard to get right. It's just in the original movie they wanted to make the Joker more important than he really needs to be.
I want to mention the character that Tom Wilkinson plays. I thought he was really good and really believable in this, and I like that they did have like another comic book like mobster in this. I thought that subplot was pretty cool, and I like the fact that this movie is not overshadowed by the villains, but they have a lot of villains in this movie actually.
Well, it includes two what I like to call super villains, and actually, Scarecrow's rogue gallery. Ra's al Ghul really isn't, but I consider him a super villain because he is, whereas Carmine Falcone is just the head mobster. He's a villain, but he's not, how do you say it? He's not a super villain.
He doesn't have powers or anything.
Yeah, or any special abilities, So, the film, like, some of these other comic book movies, has two super villains, but, the second one technically did, just one of them appeared briefly at the end, and the third one, kinda, if you consider Talia al Ghul a supervillain. We'll get to those when we get to those. League of Shadows, that's another thing I like about the movies, that they brought in lesser popular villains. I mean, Scarecrow actually is pretty popular, but Ra's al Ghul, I ain't ever heard of till this movie came out almost a decade ago.
He is a comic book character.
He is.
But he's one
absolutely,
of the lesser known
and
ones,
he plays a big part in Batman's comic book universe.
I
But
like how they have multiple villains in here, and they are legitimately played really well. But it's like you said, it wasn't marketed towards the villains. These movies, maybe a little bit with the second one because of the Joker, but even then, like this whole series isn't dedicated to the overtop villains, or like the villain being a big famous name getting top billing and everything. You know, this is I think way more faithful to Batman than the other previous movies. But I will say this, and I'm gonna get shit for this. I don't think it's perfect as far as like how the comic books portray them, or even the animated series. But it's faithful for what it is, and I did like Christopher Nolan's realistic style to added to this movie. Christopher Nolan definitely is the better director. He did this better than what Tim Burton or Joel Schumacher did. But like I said, I don't think it. Even though I really do enjoy this movie a lot, but like at the same time, like it's not the perfect masterpiece that people make it out to be. But that's another story. But I still I love this movie. I really do.
yeah, I think honestly, if you're gonna fault anything, because Chris Nolan does such an excellent job with using the practical effects and whatnot, it's more of an expectation thing than a fault. But you know, when you compare it to other action comic book superhero movies, the action isn't really as high octane as some of these more Michael Bay style blow 'em ups and whatnot. But I think it's actually still really good action scenes, and
Yeah,
the fact that they use practicals. And the second movie did an even better job at it. I'll tell you that right now. So actually, it's really a compliment still. And like I said, in terms of performance-wise, no one was bad, but
Nobody.
like I said, I mean, I think the weakest link was probably Katie Holmes. She did it the best she could. I'm not going to accuse her of being miscast. I'm just going to say maybe that character, Rachel Dawes, was only in this and in the second one because Batman really needed a trusted female counterpart.
I love how they're friends though first throughout their childhood.
Yes.
It's not just some
They
random
did do
girl
it
like
more
Vicky
originally.
Vale or like Chase. I know.
Chase Meridian, yeah. He's not.
They're not just like they don't just randomly meet him and are obsessed with Batman.
They're
like
basic.
how they actually know each other from childhood.
It's not like the whole even though Christian Bale said he took inspiration from James
It's
Bond to
wrong.
play. Look, the Batman films, everything. You know, Batman the comic book existed long before the James Bond films, but you know, you just have to admit it that all the live action films they took inspiration from James Bond. And there's no shame in saying that. But even though Christian Bale said that was one of his main inspirations, it's not like a James Bond where he, like you said, meets a random chick, hey lady, I'm the hero, let's make love. None of that stuff. He knew, he grew up with Rachel Dawes and actually really cared about her as a person. In fact, she's the one that kind of rejects him. So, you know, and of course the end, not the the climax was good, but the ending out of the way. When I saw it in the theater originally, and Commissioner Gordon, Lieutenant Gordon then, showed him the Joker card, the audience went, woo! Mr. Mini-Val, do you have anything to say?
Yeah. I would like to talk about the battle scene, like where they're in his training. Like that is exactly how I see where Batman started out before he started fighting against crime in the city and stuff. And
That's another original aspect, is the fact that the movie isn't 100% in Gotham. It actually begins in a fictional Asian country,
I was about to say that.
filmed in Tibet maybe, but I could be wrong. But they went to an actual Asian country to film all
those
that
parts
stuff.
were beautiful. Like
Yeah, the mountain range, and like in the second movie where they go to Hong Kong, film in Hong Kong, and the third movie briefly in that Mid-Eastern country. But I like that Bruce Wayne goes beyond Gotham. That it's more of a worldly type ordeal. honestly, it's really all we have to talk about, I think. Star rating. I'm gonna be safe and just give it a 3.5. That's a half short of a perfect 4. Because again, maybe it could have been just slightly more exciting, but it was still pretty exciting.
I will give this. I'm gonna give it a 4. Actually, even though I don't think it's perfect. Like, as far as like you really wanting to get interested in a live action movie that's about Bruce Wayne and Batman, I think it's perfect on that level. Overall, I don't think it's a perfect movie. I don't think it's like one of my favorite movies of all time, but I will give it a perfect 4 to say it was probably one of the best movies that came out that year. And just overall, it's just good as really good as far as a Batman movie. So I will give it the full 4.
Yeah, like you said, I'm gonna give it the full 4 also because not only that was the best movie when it came out, also because they had better action scenes, better fighting scenes, and it was more like what you would see out of a DC comic.
Characters were developed. Let's put it that way. They weren't depicted as characters like in the first 4 movies. I'll even accuse the Tim Burton movies of being that. These characters were characters. They had backstories. Bad guys had clear motives that you somewhat understood. You know, the League of Shadows are more like twisted anti-heroes than full-fledged villains. They think that by destroying a whole city that has crime in it, that you're gonna.
They're basically vigilantes.
Yeah, they're just going too far.
Yeah, they're going the wrong way.
And about to intentionally cost innocent lives.
They are basically fascists.
Yeah. Liam Neeson. I just had to mention him because I don't think maybe we did, but Liam Neeson rocks any role he does. Just had to say that. That's it. Honestly, I think that's all I have to say about the movie.
What I have to say is, I'm glad it led on to the sequels that we're about to review, and it's actually been a while since I've seen these, so I'm gonna give a nice fresh review of those, and I can't wait.
Oh yes.
If you haven't seen this movie, go see it.
Yes, rent it. Actually, it's probably cheap now to buy, even on Blu-ray. You could probably get for like $5, $7, $8. All right. Peace out.